Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to What's Going On at Revive the Heart Ministries podcast, episode 23. We have an amazing episode planned out for you, and as you can tell, we have a very special guest on the table tonight, Mr. Jurel. So we are going to go ahead and once again show you another face behind Revive the Heart Ministries and share their story, as well as how being at Revive the Heart Ministries has changed their life drastically. So before we go into the meat of everything, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are outside of RTHM?
Hello everyone. My name is Joel. I am currently auto. Well, I work in an auto shop, so I'm a mechanic. I'm also a bread salesman. They call me bread man. Yep. And I sell ice cream from time to time. Yeah, that's just it. That's all I do.
Awesome. So, Jarrell, what are some of the ministries that you're involved with at RTHM?
Oh, okay. I'm a part of the outdoor evangelism team, the indoor evangelism team. I am the leader of the maintenance team. I'm on the hospitality. I'm a part of the media team. And also, I'm one who will give a word. Yeah.
Okay, so we know what your life looks like, outside of RTHM, what you do, the ministries that you're involved in. Now we want to get into a bit of the backstory before you came to RTHM, because obviously you weren't always there.
Yeah.
So just before we go into that, how long have you been at RTHM?
2 years now.
2 years.
2 years now.
Okay, so you've been at RTHM for 2 years. Obviously you had a life before Christianity, a life before Jesus, a life before being here. So what did that life look like?
Well, I was what they would call a gangster, Jack. Yeah. My life before, I was living the street life, what we call in Dominica, the street life, the ghetto life. I used to party, I used to smoke, I used to drink. At that time, I was a fisherman, so I used to sell fish and stuff. I was involved in different gangs, or I would say crews and groups. I was also a part of what they call the music industry in Dominica, but that was for bouillon music. And yeah, I was deep in sin, fornicating, reveling, all what you could think of, I was in it. I used to sell drugs, transport on land and water, and I ended up being in drugs, but it was through my family, through my uncles before. They were drug dealers, so it was day to day, and it was quick money, so I ended up going into it and started selling drugs and doing all these things. And then in later time, I started smoking. That's how I started smoking. Later time, interfering with it and doing all those things. I started smoking and then I became addicted to it. So I used to smoke steady, like heavily, every day, all day. No matter what I doing, I used to you would pass me and you'd see a joint in my mouth before. And that's how it used to be.
Okay, so you said all that, just looking a bit at the backstory. Was it always like that? Like, how did you grow up? Was it maybe the environment that you grew up in? Did you grow up in church, as I know a lot of people did? Did you stray away after? Like, what exactly happened to bring you to that point?
Well, yeah, I grew up in church. I grew up in the village of St. Joseph. I used to go to the Greater Cornerstone Church every Sunday. I was what we used to call Awana. We had youth meeting, we had prayer night, Bible study. I used to go to all of that. So I was basically in church. I grew up knowing the church life. I was baptized in the Greater Cornerstone Church for my first baptism. I used to be a part of it also. I wanted to go further in it, but then we moved from St. Joseph and we went back to Mao. And from that, everything just started to go downhill. And then my peers, the friends I had at the time, and the way it was, the whole village, plus the family I had around, it was opposite from what I grew up in. So it just shifted from the church life to the street life. Yeah.
Okay, and sorry, just to counter on that question as well. So you grew up in church,
Yeah.
and I would believe that your family was a part of you growing up in church as well.
Yeah.
So how was that transition for, when I say your family, your direct, like your parents, your siblings, how was that transition?
My my father always used to meet me. Always used to meet me and tell me, Jay, give your life to Christ. Come back to God. The life that you live in now is will profit nothing. And he always used to talk to me. Always used to talk to me. Every time he passed and he meet me, he would say, Jay, what I want for you is to come for you to come back to Christ. He always said, always, always. My mother, same thing. My mother used to tell me, well, sometimes she should tell me, let's go to church with her. Or she would tell me, let's go. And sometimes I would go, sometimes I would say, I'll make excuses. But they always used to tell me that they want to see me how I used to be before. As in, they want to see me going to church. They want to see me give my life to Christ fully and not just be half in, half out. So every time my father used to pass, he used to call me, he used to tell me, let's go church. Or let's go there, let's go to be involved. And I used to make excuses. I always used to say, oh, I have to go and sell fish, or I have to go in the bush, or I have to go something. I always make excuses just for me not to go. But they always used to tell me they want me to come back to Christ. They want me to give my life to Christ, because the life that I was living, that if I die in that life, or if nothing happened to me, then my fate would be sealed, hell. So, yeah.
Interesting. So, after you made that move from Senjo to Maho and you started to indulge into what you described, what was that like for you, that transition into the street life? Who brought you into that? Who exposed you to that world of what you call the G life, the gangster life?
Well, when we moved to Maho, the whole surrounding was just like that. Like there was no, I would say, no one to look at or no example or anything. My neighbors, even my family, my uncle used to stay with us, and he was basically that. He was smoking and doing all this stuff on the streets, street life. Um, and also seeing my other uncles coming around. They had boats, so I used to see everything was happening, and I was like, no, no, no. I'm missing out. I can make easy money doing, this stuff. So I transitioned from that and became that. And then a certain part of it, both my sisters, my mother and my father, we used to live together. But then it was just my mother and my sisters. So there was no really, I would say, male figure to tell me, hey, not that and that and that. Although he used to, but he wasn't there. So at that time I was thinking, hey, I'm the man of the house. So I have to make things happen. I have to do what I have to do to support the house and then myself. So I decided to just go all into it. At that time, I was going to school, and I even started doing bad in school because I wasn't focused on school. Because I was like, hey, if in one night I can make 300 to 400 euro, what I do in going to school? So I started focusing on making money with my uncles, making money on the streets, than even my schoolwork. So, yeah,
Sorry, but another question.
sure.
You stated that you were in school. Can you tell us, like, what age, like, when you first moved to Maho and you still was involved in that? How old were you?
Okay. Well, we moved back to Mao when I was 14. Yeah, when I was 14 going 15, we moved back to Mao. And like maybe like from 16, I started smoking, drinking, smoking, being on the streets, selling drugs and doing all this stuff. I was a young age actually. Yeah.
Okay, just a question about that. So I know there are lots of young men who like the fast life. They want to get into the gangster life, fast money, and all of that. Can you tell us maybe a little bit of your experience? What was it like? Was it enjoyable at first? and then it went down? Did it stay enjoyable? What was it like being in that type of life?
Well, being in that life at that time, it was enjoyable actually, but the joy didn't last. It was only seasonal. So at that moment, whatever I would do at that moment, I would feel good. But afterwards, it's like you feel alone, you feel depressed, you feel empty. So you would just continue living that life and doing more for you to find some self or some sort of closure, some sort of peace, some sort of happiness. And you would do what you're doing, and after you would feel good for a time, you would make money, you would plant weed, do all this stuff. The fast money would come in through, but it wouldn't last. So the peace, the joy, the whatever you're feeling now, checking, yeah, I feeling good, I doing good, it's only for a time. At the end of the day, when you go home and you realize that you have done nothing productive with your life, and you sit down and you think and you think and you think, it just brings you into depression. Yeah.
Um, okay, so we know what your life looked like before. We get that transition from early childhood, grow up in church, to on the streets, living the G life. What brought you to RTHM? And when you came to RTHM, what was your initial reaction to the church or your first impression
Oh.
of the church?
Well, you see now, my father and my uncle always used to pass me and tell me, let's go, let's go, let's go. I always used to say no. I always used to say no. But there was a Sunday, I was sleeping actually, and my phone rang. And when I watched, it was my sister. And I pick up, hello. And she was telling me, Jay, what's up? I say, good. She tell me, let's go church. I wanted to come church with me. Today is Miracle Sunday. And I say, why don't come in? Start making excuses. I on the bed. I say, why don't come in, man? Next time. She tell me, let's go today, and try to convince me. And I say, after a while, she gonna get to me, and she say, okay, I hang up the phone. But as soon as I hung up the phone, it's like I had a weight on my chest, like a pressure on my chest. And I start to feel that it's like I couldn't go back and sleep. When I get fed up of it, I pick up the phone fast, I call her back. I tell her, okay, I'll come. She tell me, okay, we're almost there. I think there was Masak or less point. So what I do is I jump off the bed, I throw her clothes on me, and I go by the road. I come with them. I came to Revive the Heart Ministries, and the first time I was like, what? The things I saw, because I wasn't used to all the signs and all the stuff, the healing, the miracles. I wasn't used to that, so I was just in the corner of the back there, just watching and observing, watching everybody, watching what happening and watching how everything happening. And then when I hear the word, I was like, I can understand. Like, for once, I used to go service before, and the pastor was preaching, and it's like I don't get nothing from it. Or if I get something, it's 1, 2, 1, 2. But when I come there, I start to really understand. I was like, okay, I can understand what is preached. I can understand the word that is given. So, but still, I was still nervous. Even when they call up for prayer, I didn't want to go guy checking. Boy, everybody go and see me in front there. I went going for prayer, and the kind of life I was living, I was a little, I would say, shy. But it was surprising to see what was happening here, because I wasn't used to it at all. Yeah.
Amazing. So let's backtrack just a little bit and get into some more details about your past life before you came to RTHM, because I know you had many, many life experiences.
Yeah.
You often say you lived a lot of life before. So from, you said 16 years old, you started to really indulge into that fast life. What did a day-to-day look like for you? Fishing with your uncle, maybe starting your own, getting your own money. What did that look like for you?
All right. Well, what I used to do before was I used to paint. So there's this my cousin I used to work with from Warner. I used to do painting, and I used to only fish on weekends when I not painting. But then it gets a little slow, so I get more in the fishing and more and more and more. And then as time goes by, I end up in what we would call a group or a gang called In Control Niggas. that is how I end up planting or doing drugs actually, planting drugs. So what I would do before is after I come out on sea, I go on fish, or before I would go, what we do, we go bush, then we go sea, or we go and buy fish and resell. And at a certain point, a little, let's just say, from the start of the being in the crew, I was working at that time in a garage. And what I would do in the early mornings, I would go in the bush, come out the bush, go in the garage. From the garage, later on in the day, go back in the bush, trying to make money or trying to make fast money actually, because at that time on my mind, all we want is, hey, we want money, we want bike, we want chain, we want car, we want things that we can floss, we can shine. So that's how it was before with the work experience.
That's interesting that you mentioned that the purpose for getting the money was so that you can buy the cool stuff, like buy the flashy stuff.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I think sometimes from an outsider looking in, the question is always like, well, why? Like, why get into that life? What motivated you to risk your life, risk your reputation? I mean, risk going to jail. What was the purpose behind that? Was the flashy stuff the only motivation, or was there another motivation behind you getting into that life?
Well, it wasn't the only motivation, no. I mean, everybody wanted to make money. Everybody wanted to be rich at that point, and the fastest way to make a big amount of money, because at that point, in our mind, it was, hey, I'm not going to work for a black man 8 hours a day in that hot sun and come out work and be with like $80, $100 in my pocket, when I can go in the bush and work for myself, and at the end of 6 months, I make like ten to $20,000. So thinking of it, and we just say, oh, yeah, we're going into it. So it was all about the money, the fast money at that time. And at that time, all of us, well, I used to ride bike. So at that time, all of us had something we wanted. I was never really into the flashy, the chains and stuff, but I liked the bikes. So in my head, I was like, okay, I want my bike. I want to have what I have in life, and I'm young. I want to enjoy life. So that was the thing, to enjoy life. So I was like, okay, I need to make a fast money, a big money, but I cannot wait and let it build up and build up and build up and work for somebody. So I need to make something big one time. So we decided that we're going to go into drugs, into planting marijuana.
Right. I just find it interesting because recently I remember Bro A was saying that the reason for a lot of sin is poverty, because you don't have people do a lot of things just to obtain money. So it seems like partly that was the case. There wasn't enough, so it was just like, how can I make this big and make it fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too, I think this is like common. There are a lot of young men with entrepreneurial skills.
Yep.
They have skills for making money, they have skills to sell, and the devil is exploiting those skills in drugs, in that kind of gang life. Because from what you said, that we thought we need to work for ourselves. That's entrepreneurship. It seems like a gift to make something, but it being exploited and turned when it's not in the right hands. Yeah.
And even what you mentioned in the beginning, how you had to step up as a man in the house, I can imagine that during that time you felt like you needed to provide financially for your family and to step up in that way. Maybe
Yeah.
that was one of the motivations as well.
Yeah, it was actually.
Okay, so you stated earlier that you had to step up as the man of the house, right? Can you tell us a bit more about that? Like, how was that transition for you? Because you lightly brushed it over, like, okay, it just became my mom and my sisters. Can you give us a bit of what was that transition for, like you? What was that transition for,
Like
for you?
Well, it was me telling myself that I had to uphold a certain responsibility at maybe a young age, I would say, because at that time, my mother and my father, they so always in arguments, And then finally they decided to split up permanently. So it was done, and then my father left, and it was just me and my mother and my sisters. So, and I'm the only male. So in my head, like, hey, I'm the only male here. I am the man of the house. So I have to do something, or I have to make things happen. I have to ensure that everybody is safe. I have to ensure that everything is taken care of and to be responsible. So in my head, the responsibility that the head would have or my father would have had, I had to take it up. Yeah.
Okay.
So from that point, you grew up in church, and then you moved. You got into the whole drug life because you wanted to provide for your family. You wanted to make it big to get something and to get it quick. So after this point, you're a little bit in the life already. You're doing it. You mentioned something earlier that depression started to hit. That at first you were enjoying it, but then you became sad. What was that like, or why did that feeling come? How was that for you?
Well, at the start of it, it was all it was a better rose at the start of it, enjoying the pleasures, enjoying what coming, but being in it, and the longer you're in it, you start to realize that it doesn't bring the peace that you want, or the peace that you're looking for, the joy you're looking for. It doesn't give it to you, and what it does, it just lets you. It's like a circle, and you're just running in a circle and doing the same things over and over and over again. So when I used to smoke, it doesn't matter how much I smoke throughout the day. I would feel nice throughout the day, but at night, when I leave all my friends, when I go home and it's me alone in the house, and my mind start racing, and I'm no longer under the influence of the marijuana, and everything kicking in, I would feel like, wow. It's like I was feel like I had a hole in my chest, and no matter what I do throughout the day, or no matter what I do to fill it, it was just sucking in everything. And at that point, I still feel like I'm not good enough. Even though I can clearly see that I'm making progress, even though I can clearly see that I'm impacting people around me, I'm helping people. I was always a nice person, helping people around me, and there was things going on, and I could see, yes, something happening. But at the end of it, when I go home, it's like I just doing everything, and it just going for nothing. So I'd always feel like I'm not good enough, or everything that I doing was not worth it. So then I would go even more, and I would smoke even more and go even deeper into it. So all what I do throughout the day, I would do it in the night, trying to keep that sense of happiness, that sense of peace. But I just had to come to the realization that no matter how much I do it, or no matter what I do, it doesn't last. It only lasts for a time. At the end of it, I could drink as much as I want. When the alcohol wear off, I back into depressed state. I back into how much things coming in my head, thoughts in my head, troubles of life. No matter how much I smoke to hide it, when I smoke, I feel good, I feel nice. I wrong my peers at the time, we laughing and everything. But at the end of it, when the high go, I'm back to the same depressed state, feeling like I'm not good enough, feeling like all what I'm doing is for nothing. Yeah.
So when you were going through this period of life, was there ever a thought in your mind of about God or about Jesus?
Yes, actually. You know, that life is a very tormented life to live, because I would be smoking all day, and then when I reach home and I feel that way, and I go and smoke even more, it have days or weeks I will not sleep at all, because in my head, it's like I hearing voices in my head telling me, what if I go and sleep and I do wake up? And I know if at that time, if I was to die in that life I was living, I know where I would be. So it was torment. So what I would do, I would continue smoking all night and playing game to keep myself up while being tormented. What if you fall asleep and don't wake up? It was real, real torment. So it's like it's just happening. You're just thinking when that comes to your thought, and now I doing everything in my power to try and stay up. To so I would go even more. I would smoke even more. I would go big nights. I would leave home, go on the streets, and just pull up on the road because I don't fall asleep. Because I'm afraid if I fall asleep and I don't get up, that's it for me. Yeah.
I think I think that's a really important conversation because even what you mentioned previously, that in the day you were fine, people would see you walking around. Maybe even younger men who wanted to be like you, checking you like, yeah, that's how I want to be. That's who I want to be earlier. What they see is the external of the tough guy,
Yep.
bad man on the street, and then in the night, that is when everything would hit. And you said something that no matter what you did, there was no happiness, there was no peace. So I got the sense that not only was it to, provide for your family, but all the smoking, the drinking, the action, everything, the rush, it was to try to find some sort of peace, some sort of happiness.
Yeah, it was actually. It was to try to bypass all the thoughts. Because I used to think plenty. I used to just sit down and thoughts just run through my mind. Things of the past and certain experiences in life. And I used to just think a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So I used to find, or I used to have to find an escape from reality. And that was my escape from reality. That when I smoke or when I drink, then how I would feel, it would just go. Like the thinking would just stop. And it's like I would be in a bubble at that time. I would be in a bubble and everything would be nice. But when that bubble bursts and everything fall back on me, it would be hard. It used to be hard. Very hard.
So in times prior, Jarrell, you've shared a few testimonies about some of the health issues that you were going through during that time and how your health during that time kind of also brought back a conscience of, oh gosh, I need to give my life to Jesus. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
My health issues. Well, at that time, um, my blood pressure used to just drop, like out of the blue. I would be normal, and I'll just start feeling funny, like lightheaded, dizzy, weak, and I'll be like, "What happening to me?" And I would feel like I have no strength, no strength. And when I do actually go to the doctor or do hospital or something, and they check my pressure is just dropped for no unknown reason, just drop. I remember a time I wake up, I go see, and while on see, I start feeling funny. So I start drinking water, checking maybe as I don't eat yet, because we go early in the morning, and normally we eat bread and stuff on sea for breakfast. So I check maybe as I don't eat yet, but I'm not feeling to eat. It's a funny feeling, and then I get a headache. I start feeling weak, and then I unsee, and it's like everything's spinning around me. So what I do, I lie down flat in the boat. I lie down flat, and I was resting. We stay on sea that day, maybe like from 10 till like after 3, and I start feeling funny like after 9. So from after 9 to after 3, I on the boat feeling funny. So as we reach on shore, I was feeling so bad. My mother just passed. So I call her and I tell her, bring me hospital, I'm not feeling well. So she asked what happened to me. When I explained to her, she rushed me hospital. When we reach in the hospital, the doctor telling me that I nearly don't make it. So I was like, what? How come? When she showed me, she told me that my blood pressure dropped to a point that I even lucky I did. And they had to put me on drips and give me how much bags of drips that night. And I was like, but why? Why would my blood pressure drop? And I on sea. I mean, I around salts, everything's salty. And out of the blue, that used to just happen to me. I would be home and I'll just start feeling funny. I would be in work, I start feeling funny. Yeah, that you just take me out of the blue.
Okay, so you were suffering with that for a little bit, and as you say, like you already had the fear of death. That what if I don't make it? What if I go to sleep and I don't wake up? Earlier, when you said that, you know, even being on the street, it's quite interesting because this is a common thing that I hear all the time. That people who are in, the gangster life selling drugs, it's like there's something or some part in them that knows this is wrong.
Yeah.
And not only knowing it is wrong, but there's a severe torment that comes with living that life.
Yep.
even so it's interesting to hear you say that, because even these days, the music that the younger generation of men are listening to is like, the rap trap music, and even in that, these people are telling you like how tormented they are and how afraid they are at all times that they're going to die. So it's just an observation, but that's really interesting that people choose to stay in that life even with the torment. What was it for you? Why were you still there even though you were feeling so tormented? Why not, like, at that point, why did you not feel like, okay, I need to just change?
At that time, what was in my head was the money. Hey, I need to make money. I need to make something out of myself. I'm young, now is the best time, now is the best time to do it, so that when I get older, I don't have to go and struggle. So that was in my head. I need to make the money, I need to do what I have to do now, so that later I don't have to go through the struggles and go through all of that. Yeah. That was one of the main reasons, the money. Just need to make money. I need to get rich. Tired of the struggle at that time.
So as we come up closer to you coming to RTHM and your first time coming back to the house of God, what was that final breaking point for you in your life where that was the end of your fast life, the end of the gangster life for you? What was that breaking point?
Well, it's funny though, because even while I was living that life, I would still feel like I do belong there. I would still feel like, hey, what you doing there? None of you. So you'd have times we would be in the bush and we'd be talking, and the fellas around me, my peers at that time, would be speaking Bible related stuff. And me knowing the Bible, I would speak what I know. And they would be like, oh, they don't believe in that, and they would speak against it. And it would hit me at that time and say, but I know the truth, and they're speaking against it. Who's saying they don't believe, it's just a force, it's this, it's that. Even speaking of the books that not in the Bible, the book of Enoch and knowledge they're giving me, they say they want to give me knowledge on the Nephilims and whatever, and who was on the earth before. And me knowing the Bible, checking, but what are you doing there? But still, it's all of us doing what we're doing, so I just continue, I just let that slide and continue doing what I'm doing. And until it's like I start feeling like I'm not supposed to be there. I'm not supposed to be there. So what God, and I know I understand what God was doing at that time, or what He started doing, He started breaking me down and making me see that they're not for me. The life that I was living, they're not for me. And one of the things He did there, everything at a certain point, everything was good. And then everything I started doing, nothing wasn't working. So I would put in effort for months, put in a whole lot of effort to work, and at the end of it, I would reap nothing, like literally nothing. Something would happen, is either maybe somebody pass and take what we had, or we would send some stocks up and it would lose, or police would take it, and everything was just falling apart. And then I was home once, and I was scrolling on YouTube, and I ended up seeing some videos and Bible verses, and I heard people were speaking on love and different things. And I read, there was a verse I just can't remember it, but at that time I realized that everything I'm doing, nothing not working, because at that time I was trying to make a name for myself. I was trying to do something so that at the end I would come out on top. And I check in, boy, nothing not working. And I start feeling low and low and low. But now I realize is God was doing that so that I could understand if I try and do it on my own, I will fail. And without Him, I am nothing. Because I was trying to do something for me. I was trying to make a name for me. I was trying to get things for me. I was trying to, have what I have for myself. I want this, I want that. Not involving Him, straying from Him. And He break me down to a point where I had to understand that without Him, I am nothing. And all what I do, nothing wasn't working, because all what I was doing was going against His will. And everything I was doing, I couldn't involve him because it was wrong, it was sinful. So that was one of the things. He had to break me down and make me understand that without him, I am nothing.
Awesome. Okay, so from that point forward, you started to come to RTHM after your dad and your sister invited you. What were your thoughts during that period of your life? Were you immediately drawn to God? Were you immediately surrendered to God at that point? Or did it take some time for you to fully give your life to Christ?
Well, no, it didn't take time because I was already at that point that to understand that without him I am nothing, and he already make me start breaking me down, and seeing that all what I do, nothing not working for me, and that I had come to a point where it had a time I come to a point where I didn't want to live life again. So I check in, I fed up with that. I fed up with that. But the only way out was through him, and I knew that. So what he do, he make me to really understand through all the hardship and break me down where I was like zero, had nothing, and make me understand that hey, I have to come back to him. So deep down, I always knew that that is the only way out for me. And it had, I remember Sunday, I cannot remember what exactly was happening, but on the market before, we used to have church services, and I remember they was having a preaching like an outdoor, and while I was on the market, I just come out and see, music playing, I there cleaning fish, music, dancing to the music and stuff. I watch under the market, and I was watching them, and I say, one day I'll be like all you. Because deep down I was just feeling like the life that I was living, that not the life for me, or that not what I wanted to be, that not what he wanted me to be. But at that time, I wanted what I wanted, so I wasn't able to live it. It was only through him showing me that on my own I would fail. That's all. So it was an easy transition to give it up for him, because at that point I understand that on my own I cannot. So I have to just trust in him and follow his steps.
So I have a question. You mentioned something. You stated that music was playing and you saw people under the market. Was it RTHM Outdoor Evangelism? Was it a different church?
That I cannot remember. I cannot remember.
But it was people preaching,
Yeah,
mm. And you said one day you'll join
one
them.
day. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
At that time I didn't understand the power of words. At that time I was still living freely, enjoying the pleasures of the world. But I just know that that's not what I wanted to. I didn't want to stay in that life. But because of how close I was to the people around me also, my peers, and because of what we had going on, I was like, I cannot just leave. So I was in it, I had to stay in it. I wanted what I want for myself, so I stay in it.
Okay, and then one more question. Was there a particular event or something that happened with your whole bush life and planting weed and everything that made you say, okay, like when you started coming to RTHM, was there something particularly that happened that was like, okay, I'm done, and just let you let go everybody and everything?
Yeah, because even when I just started coming to RTHM from Miracle Sunday, when I decided, okay, I'm going to start coming, I was still going bush. I was still basically in my same life. Nothing like really, it didn't change immediately. So I was the same person I used to be. And then I remember the next week after that, I decide I struggling too much. No money in my pocket for how long? Nothing I doing, not working. I need a job. I need to do something to happen. And at that time, my mother had papers. Well, at that time we were making papers to go overseas, so everything was in progress. And I said, nah, that don't come in time, so I need a job. So the next week I got a job, Portsmouth. I used to work there before, so I went back there with George Nanton, and I started working with George Nanton. So the weekend I'd go bush, and in the week I'd go work instead of every day in bush. And I remember it was a Friday. I was on a bus coming from work, And when I watch my phone on the bus, I see a message in the group. And when I listened to the message, it was a voice recording. One of them fellas checking, boy, somebody come up there and go in our greenhouse. Because we had two sections. And they go in the section below and the section on top and take what we had. And it's like that, from that, I just checking, yeah, I think she that. Because in myself before, it's like I want to leave, but I don't want to leave. So after that experience, and as I listen to that voice note, I just say, yeah, fellas, I finished it, that's it, on the bus. They say, yeah, fellas, I finished it, that's it, and nothing that again, man. Too much struggle. And I just leave that alone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gave your life to Christ, obviously, but that was a weird way to phrase it. But you gave your life to Christ. You let go everything and stuff. But Scripture says that if we would give up everything for His sake, that He would give it back to us 100-fold. Was there anything that at that time you had to give up to God? Something that He restored to you? Maybe a testimony you'd like to share?
Yes, there was actually. I had to give my whole self. No, let me start from how it ended, it's happened. It was on the mountain. I went up on the mountain and we were doing devotion. And he gave me a scripture and he told me to turn to it. It was Matthew 16, verse 25 and 26. And that scripture changed my whole life. Because at that time I was coming to RTHM, but I was still in the sinful life. And when I went to it, it says, for whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And I start thinking of it. And I was like, oh, okay. So if I want to find life, and then I understand the reason why I was failing before, because I was trying to find my own self. I was trying to find my life. I was trying to, make a name for myself without involving Him. So all the while I was losing. But then, at that time, as I said, I was still in the sinful life. So at that time, I had my girlfriend. And on that Monday, I decided, okay, I have to give up everything. Everything. I have to give up everything. So that Monday, I started deleting numbers on my phone of friends I used to have before, even those I used to be in the bush with, the peers. I started deleting numbers and just removing myself from everything. And I messaged my girlfriend at the time and told her, hey, we cannot be in a relationship anymore, so we have to take a step back, go back to being friends. And at that time, it was a little hard to go back to being friends because we were already at that level. And then she was like, she don't know how to do that because she have feelings for me, and she don't know if she can go back to just being friends, and how all of a sudden I can just throw that on her just so, and and at the end of the talk she was like she cannot do it. And at that time I start, it was a funny feeling then, a funny feeling to lose. But in that time, I still decide, okay, I will go through with losing everything because of what verse 26 says. Verse 26 says, for what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? So I start thinking it was either I lose and I give up everything, or I lose my soul. I stay in sin and lose my soul. So even though it was hard to do, I had to do it, and I did it. And at that time, I remember that night, I was feeling like I was break down because I was like, okay, I actually did that. I break up with my girlfriend at the time, and she's saying she cannot go back to being friends with me because we're already at that state. So I was like, wow, I just lose her. And it was hard. I even remember that night, a certain part in that night, I was sitting down on that side there. And I remember while everybody's standing up, I can't remember what I was doing, but then I think of it, and the tears come to run down my eyes. And I see at that time, I think Bray was walking up to me to tell me, to. But at that time, while I put down my head and the tears come down my eyes, I see he turn and he go. And he's not understand at that time, he had to make me go through that so that I would come out stronger. But it all turned out for my good because I had to end up losing my girlfriend at the time for the sake of Christ and losing everything I had, the friends and everything. And now he blessed me with more. Now I have brothers and sisters around me. Now I'm married and my girlfriend at the time is now my wife. You see, she come to her senses later down. Later down, I think it was a couple of days after, she came to her senses and she was like, okay, we can be friends too. And we go back to being friends and then we became best friends. And then I started to realize that, I did not know this person who I was calling my girlfriend all the while. It's only at that point I really get to know her in being friends. So it was a win-win. But at the point of it, at the point of giving up, it was a little difficult and it can be a little heartbreaking. But he has given me more he has given me in abundance because I never thought that I would be married, but I am.
Nice.
I have a quick question before this next question. So he restored to you your wife. He gave you a wife. What about the money though? Because you went from making a good amount of money to giving up all of that. How did God restore that part of your life?
Yeah, well, at that point I started working again, and then I started making more actually than I was making before. And I started getting like jobs on the side because I'm a skillful person. I do mostly everything. But at that time, my main focus was auto mechanics. And I go back to the garage. I start working at the garage again. And at that time, I start making $120 my day. And that was working good for me. Plus I had jobs on the side and jobs was just coming. So although it wasn't coming how it would have come before, like a big amount, but it was coming, it was steady, a constant coming. Yeah.
I think it's very important for people to hear that other side, because a lot of the times when people who have lived the life that you live hear about coming to Jesus, they think, oh, I have to give up everything in order for me to come to Christ. I have to give up my girlfriend. I have to give up the money. And people assume that God is not a restorer of that he can't give you more and better than what you had before. But you're a living testimony that when you give things up for Christ, he gives you back in return even more than what you had before.
Yeah. And before being in that life, you doesn't even see any money going. So I would get money now, and then before I blink my eyes, it go. And I'd be like, but what I do? And I would sit down, I used to literally sit down and backtrack and think of, okay, I did that, I supposed to have that, so how come I don't have that? Where the rest go? What I do? Like the money it couldn't stay in my hand. No matter how I try, it couldn't stay in my hand. So as it come, it go. As it come, it go. As it come, it go. Yeah, that's how it was before.
And before you continue next twist, another thing that you mentioned was all the friends that you had, you deleted the numbers, and a part of you, it was hard to let them go before that scripture. And God restored your life, you stated, with the jobs, the money, the wife, everything. What about the friendships? You said that you've got brothers and sisters in Christ, but how are your friendships now? Are they for the better?
Yes, they are actually. They are for the better. As my friends is those who I call my brothers and my sisters, and I have to understand that, hey, I understand that even when Jesus said, let me use that example of Jesus, when he came to him and tell him that he's more than his brothers, are calling him, and he said, who is his mother, who is his brothers? It is those who do the will of his father, and I have to understand that. So the friends that I gained as being a Christian, my brothers, my sisters, now the relationship is even better because now, I mean, my home is their home is my home. I would be home and I would just see one of them just pop up, just open the door and come inside, or just pop up and just come, go in the cupboard, take what they want, eat, and they would do like it's their home. So now the relationship is 100% better. It's not as toxic as before. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. So now that you've changed, Christ has come into your life and you're a different person, how have you changed and how have the people around you seen that change in you?
Alright, well, I would say one of the ways I changed that I used to get really aggressive at times. I used to have anger issues. So any little thing would turn me off. And my face used to be hard. I used to smile before. I used to smile at all. My face would always be hard. Now I'm always smiling. I'm Mr. Smiley now. I always used to be angry. Now I have peace. Now I have joy. So it is a big transformation. The people around me, all I keep hearing is, hey, it has one lady, right, in Maho. I remember a night I go in the shop by her and buy something. And she watched me, she tell me, I doesn't see you. I say, no, I'm not Maho again. She tell me, oh, so you joined the faith? You your father them? I say, yes. He said, I'm so proud of you. Keep it up. A good thing you're doing. And everybody that know me from what the life I used to live and the life I live in now will meet me and tell me that they're proud of me. That is a good thing I'm doing. That they wish that their son or their daughter would make that step, or the young people of the nation. But even my mother and my father, that it made me feel good to hear that they tell me that, Jay, we're proud of you. Proud of the life that you live in now. Proud of the person that you have become. Before, they used to constantly tell me that they don't want me living that life, to come back to Christ, to leave, come out in sin. But now, to know that my parents proud of me because of the life I live in now, that's a plus for me.
Nice. And just to, I mean, it's not my testimony, but just to share, I remember there was once we was walking in town and somebody he grew up with saw him. And he was like, I know your face. And he was like, yeah, Jarrell. And he was like, oh, you're looking so clean. So, yeah.
What about your old friends? Have you ever met them since giving your life to Christ?
Yeah, I mean, there are some that they just don't have nothing to do with me. Like, the person I used to be with every day, when you see him, you see me, you see me, you see him. After that, it's like he just go cold. He even ended up telling my uncle that we were so close and I just leave him, I leave the bush, I leave everything, I just go and sell fish with him, everything, I just go in church, and he gets so cold where it's like the friendship just die out. So we're passing, and most of the time we'd pass each other straight, maybe just a hi, hello. But the rest of them, I would still pass. If I pass it in Mao, they would ill me, I'd ill them. It's just I doesn't be around them, or I doesn't go in the midst like before, or not at all actually. But if I pass them, I would still say hi. They would still say hi. They would still say, boy, how you doing? Some of them would be, boy, brother, I'm proud of you, brother. I want to join too, but it's hard. And I'll tell them, no, it's not hard, you have to make up your mind. But they say, well, keep it up, hold strong. So it's not that I stray from ailing them or saying hi, saying hello. I would still pass, I would still ill them, they would still big me up, but I just not in that category anymore. I no longer live in that life. So I up there and they down there. Yeah.
So it's just like Jesus says that we should be separated. You know, that when we come to him, because a lot of people, I think that's the part they find the hardest, coming to Jesus and having to leave everything they know behind. But as per your testimony, and we've been hearing, and everybody else's testimony really that we've had on this series, that once you give up for Jesus' sake, he will give you back 100-fold, better than you could have ever had before. And that's really amazing. So Joel, we are coming, unfortunately for some of you, to an end of, this interview with you today. So there's probably somebody watching who is in the position that you were, or maybe a young man who wants to get into that, maybe a young woman, whoever, they want to get into that life, that's the life they desire, what would you say to that person?
Well, I would tell them just go for it, because the life that they live in, from a living from experience, that life is, everything is only for a time. The pleasures, the false sense of peace, the false sense of happiness is only for a time. At the end of it, you just end up worse than you was. So every day you think you're getting better, but you're actually getting worse. At the end of it, when all the hype die out and you by yourself and you realize that, hey, you're still that same person. When you snap back to reality and you realize that nothing has changed, you haven't grown, nothing positive is happening, then you get worse than you already was. So my advice is to just take that step. Stop thinking that if you go, how would the people around you take it? How would the people around you react? If you would be rejected by your peers or whatever it is. Stop thinking of that. Stop thinking of if you leave that person, how it would be, or how it's going to be, the relationship between you all going to be. No. Start thinking of, hey, if I don't come out of that life and I die in that life, I'm going to hell. What would it profit me to gain all the money in the world, to enjoy all the pleasures, to revel every day, to fornicate every day, to be drunk, to be high, to be all these things and enjoy the worldly life, and at the end of it lose my soul? Start thinking of that, because that's what I was thinking of. When you start thinking of that, then you will decide, hey, it profits nothing. Because at the end of it, at the end of all these things, these pleasures that are only for a season, for a time, and you end up getting worse. At the end of it, it's even going to be worse for you when you die, if you die in that life. So, give your life to Christ. Start seeking what He wants. Set your mind on heavenly things. And one of the things you have to learn to do is to give up yourself, give up your will for His will. So if you focus on what He wants for you rather than what you want for yourself, then it will turn out for good.
Okay. Well, Joel, it's been wonderful hearing your testimony, and it's been a joy watching where you were before and where the Lord has taken you. I can never forget, we were in Maho once. I think that was the first time I went to Maho, the evangelism team, and someone said to me, "That's Brosy's son." I was like, "What? Does Brosy's son have hair?"
I remember that time, or you were advising, advertising the crusade with Apostle John G. And you were like, "Apostle John G is coming." And I told her, "I know, with my father." And then I took my back.
And I was like, "That is Brosy's son?" So it truly has been amazing. It's been a wonder watching you become the person that you are today. We thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. Thank you for taking your time out today, for sharing with the people how Jesus has changed your life.
Yeah.
We thank all of you for watching tonight, episode 23 of What's Going On at Revive the Heart Ministries. We thank you for tuning in, and as always, we encourage you, if there is any of you that hears the Lord's call on your life right now as you listen to Jarrell's testimony, this is the day of salvation. Harden not your heart. Tomorrow is not promised to you.
Yep.
Now is the time to make the change. Now is the time to make the switch. None of us know the day. None of us know the hour.
Nope.
So, now is the time to give your life to Jesus. We thank you for watching, and we will see you next week for episode 24. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Revive the Heart Ministries. Join us this Tuesday for prayer at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Lord, for revealing deep and sacred things.
Tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the What's Going On at Revive the Heart Ministries podcast.
Us going on the mountain was really an intercession on behalf of our community.
On Friday at 7 p.m., comment your testimony for Thank God It's Saturday. Come back next Sunday at 8 a.m. for the Alive Word Ministry.
Laugh. When it seems like there is no reason to laugh, that's the time to laugh.
Join us on Sunday night for preparation time at 6 p.m.
This is how we should love, to give our last, even unto the point of
there.
Starting on the first Friday in June, Thank God It's Saturday will move from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. Likewise, on the first Tuesday in July, prayer will move from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. See you there. Good morning to you, in Jesus' name.